Omakyanatimirandasya Gyananjala Shlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Parakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So continue with the reading from Bhagavad-gītā as it is from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the founder-ācārya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we are continuing with chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. So after Krishna was explaining to Arjuna the difference between the body and soul, then he told him also how he should perform his duty even for the sake of enjoyment. But then he told him that better than to do it with some expectation of the result, better do it without expectation, just as a duty and for Lord's pleasure. So Arjuna is going through such developments of advice, because Krishna realized that he could not immediately implement all these previous options, so he is giving him another options. Okay. And last time we were speaking something what is the purpose of the Vedas, and how if somebody is not careful and goes into the Vedas, there can be many distractions. So we have to be aware of it, that Vedas deal with many subject matters, but ultimately the purpose is only one, and that is attainment of devotional service to Krishna. We spoke also how religion is determined by one's faith or philosophy, that people are differently influenced by the three modes of nature, so from these various religions are coming. And also we spoke about again about this distraction that sense enjoyment and material opulence can make our determination for spiritual practice weaker. So we should also be aware of this. And now we continue. Now Krishna will tell Arjuna how is Krishna consciousness basically encompassing all the Vedic purposes. So Shloka 245. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Traigunya pertaining to the three modes of material nature, Vishayaha on the subject matter, Vedaha Vedic literatures, Nistraigunyaha transcendental to the three modes of material nature, Bhava be Arjuna or Arjuna, Nirdvandvaha without duality, Nitya Sattvastaha in a pure state of spiritual existence, Niryoga Kshemaha free from ideas of gain and protection, Atmavan established in the self. Translation: the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport: all material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results, which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy, where in the beginning there is Brahma Jigyasa, or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom, advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the karma-kāṇḍa chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas, as the Bhagavad-gīta is a part of the fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata. The Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. So Krishna is advising here to Arjuna to, because Vedas deal with three modes of nature, so it means also that they cover all these different fates of these modes, like the tamasic. There is a tamasic scripture, which means for the people in the mode of ignorance, and there is rajasic scripture for people in the mode of passion, and also sattvic for people in the mode of goodness. But here we are speaking about transcending even the mode of goodness. So so Krishna is advising Arjuna that he should go to inquire about the transcendence, or transcend these modes of nature. And in this way, because Vedas also are created in such a way that this development is gradual there. Like people will, if they follow even this tamasic scripture, which may even involve some meat eating or whatever, just by this that they are following Lord Krishna's system, Lord Krishna's scripture, so they will gradually be purified. So Vedas are designed like this, and basically these principles are all the same in all these parts of the Vedas, that there is some authority to be followed, there is some guru, there is some rituals. Basically, the system is all the same, but maybe ingredients are different. And with this background, even there is also easy to come to devotional service, because there is also some scripture, there is also some authority, there is some guru, there is some process to follow. So those who follow the Vedas, for them is then also easy to pick up these higher instructions. Whereas people who don't follow the Vedas, like it's very common in the Western world, so for them to pick up this culture of all these things is much more difficult. They are usually not used to it. So Srila Prabhupada in Śrīmad Bhagavatam 6.2.24.25 is writing in the purport that the Vedic principles certainly prescribe a gradual process for rising to the spiritual platform. But if one remains attached to the Vedic principles, there is no chance of his being elevated to spiritual life. Kṛṣṇa therefore advised Arjuna to perform devotional service, which is the process of transcendental religion. So yeah, because even with the Vedas, there is I think it will be later in Bhagavad-gīta, there is a saying that even on the royal roads, there is a possibility of accident. So we can, in the process of following the Vedas, we can become attached to this following, and we may not go further. So this risk is there also. So as long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities, such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. So this tolerance comes basically as a side effect of one's being focused in the Krishna consciousness. We can even perceive when we are interested in something. Let's say we have some hobby, or we are reading something which is interesting, or watching some movie or whatever. In this situation, our focus is such that we are forgetting our body literally. We may forget that we are hungry, that we are thirsty, that it's cold or hot. So with this focus, is easy to tolerate such things. Even, I don't know, people are going to some trips to some mountains and there is a lot of snow and whatever, but because they have this determination to achieve this goal, they are able to tolerate this harshness of weather and all these things. So the same thing when one is fully in Krishna consciousness. In this way, although these happiness and distress are there, and cold and warm is there, and all these dualities, but he is not too much distracted by them, because his focus is on Krishna. And basically our perception is what mind perceives. His mind is happy, then whatever is happening with body, it doesn't have to affect the mind. So mind being concentrated in Krishna consciousness might also disconnect in this way from the body, and because it's just the perception of the mind what we are feeling. We are not really the body. That's obvious after Krishna was speaking so many verses that there is difference between the body and soul. So we are, just because of the mind, we are perceiving that there is some relation to the body. Okay, let's continue. 46. Yavanartha udapane sarvatah samputo dake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. Yavan, all that artaha is meant udapane, in a well of water, sarvataha in all respects, sampluta udake in a great reservoir of water, tavan similarly, sarveshu in all, vedeshu Vedic literatures, brahmanasya of the man who knows the supreme Brahman, vijanataha who is in complete knowledge. Translation: all purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Purport: the rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the karma-kāṇḍa division of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, 15:15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of the living entities with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, 15:7. The living entities are parts and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:33-7 as follows. Aho batashvapachoto gariyan yajjigvagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvuksasnur-ācārya brahmanu churnama grinanti yete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting your holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala, the Gita is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals, and studied the Vedic literatures many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So, to this verse, Srila Prabhupada was giving in one lecture in Los Angeles in 1968. He was giving an example that in the Indian villages, there are many different wells with water, and they are used for different purposes, like for taking drinking water or washing the clothes or washing the dishes or taking bath, and like this. There are many small wells for different reasons. But when one comes to the river, because the river is flowing, so, and those wells are also like separated, because, for example, we would not take water for drinking from the well where somebody was taking bath or washing the clothes, because the water can be contaminated in this way. But in the river, the water is flowing, so it's always changing. So there is less chance of this contamination. So a river can be used for all these purposes at once. Of course, there are in the modern age, human beings are so advanced that now they can contaminate even whole rivers, but by our industries. But usually, if we don't do such things and just do our ordinary activities, so rivers are supposed to be not contaminated. But unfortunately, in the present state, rivers are also very much polluted. So, comparing the river is like the Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness fulfills all the Vedic purposes. Even we will hopefully come to it later in the Nectar of Devotion. There is a description of benefits of performing devotional service, and devotional service in practice, or sadhana bhakti. Its effects are already like the distress is reduced, and also all auspiciousness is coming. So just by practicing the devotional service, there are automatically some benefits which may be described in the Vedas. All these auspicious things will start to happen in our lives. So this is how when one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't have to worry about these various details. Like last time, we also spoke about the debts to sages and forefathers and demigods and like this. So when we are engaged in Krishna consciousness, Krishna is taking care of all these minor things, these partial things. And here also, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that this is the perfectional stage if one is chanting the Lord's holy name, whatever the origin of a person is, even if he is a Chandala. So he is, in this way, is very much elevated when he takes to Krishna consciousness, to chanting of the holy name. And even is mentioned like he has already completed all these sacrifices and Vedic rituals and studied Vedic literatures and like this. Okay, I'll continue. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purpose of the Vedas without being attached to the rituals only, and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for the common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all of the Vedanta and the Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The best purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, the deliverer of all fallen souls. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist, instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool, and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna. And the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. So again, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that the highest perfection is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, and this is basically conclusion of Vedic literatures of Vedanta philosophy, Upanishads, and so on. In fact, when Upanishads are mentioned, Upanishads, after one is performing all these karma-kāṇḍa rituals, when he follows the Vedic system, like during grihastha life, basically, during the householder life or family life. So this is the main point where all these rituals are performed. So after he has all these experiences that what these rituals can bring, he might hopefully develop some detachment, and then I think even before Upanishads, in Vanaprastha or retired life, there is some scripture, I'm not sure, might be Aranyakas, who are explaining the metaphysics of these rituals, and then one comes to Upanishads, and Upanishads deal directly with spiritual practices. So Upanishads are basically meant for sannyasis, but even Bhagavad-gītā is counted among the Upanishads. And we can study Bhagavad-gītā even we are not sannyasis, because devotees are like on the level of sannyasis. Srila Prabhupada also mentioned to his grihastha disciples that their life is completely dedicated to Lord Krishna's service. So that's why it's like they were sannyasis. It's equal to in quality. So that's why devotees can approach even Upanishads without taking the sannyas order. Yeah. Interesting also was that Lord Chaitanya was very great scholar, so that it looks strange for his Prakashananda Saraswati that he was just chanting the holy names of the Lord. So it was amazing pastime of the Lord, how he showed what is important despite his all this learning he had. Okay. Continue. 247. Karmanyeva dhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangos tva karmani. Karmani in prescribed duties eva certainly adhikaraha, right. Te of you ma never phaleshu in the fruits, kadachana at any time, ma never karma phala in the result of the work, hetuhu cause, who become, ma never te of you sangaha attachment, astu there should be, akarmani in not doing prescribed duties. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. So here it says that there are prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties according to the modes. So, for example, if one is in the mode of passion, it means he should do kshatriya's duties. In the mode of goodness, he should do brahmana duties. So, according to his conditioning, there are some duties also prescribed, so he can be purified from this conditioning. And capricious work means something which is not authorized by any authority, so it's not according to the modes. And inaction means neglecting one's prescribed duties, not doing anything. And here also mentioned that when one is attached, then one also will suffer the results, or suffer or enjoy the results of his activities. So that's why Krishna is advising Arjuna not to be attached, because then the suffering or enjoying will not be there. And it's very logical, because if we are attached to some result, let's say we can want to go for a vacation, and for some reason we are attached to it, that we want to go to this place, and we cannot go because we get sick. So then because there was this expectation, then some sadness can come. So that's the way how this attachment works, because we are expecting something. Already these emotions are there, what I will do in this place, who I will meet, what I will eat, or whatever. So we are expecting some scenario, but then the scenario, or no, our lives move somewhere else. And because we had this attachment, so all these emotions are invested. So that's why is this suffering there, because of these attachments. So that's why Krishna is advising Arjuna not to be attached, because then he will not also have the experience of these results. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the scriptural injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. One more aspect why this is the cause of bondage, because our desires to have some experience from these results is affecting our subtle body, is affecting our mind, is affecting our intelligence. And then when we are leaving the body, all this is recorded in our subtle body, that we had some desires like this. And because of these desires, then we again have to take the material body to experience these desires or results of these desires. Of course, depending whether we have karma for it or not. But this record is already there, and that's why it is cause of bondage. So one who doesn't store these desires, then he is able to be liberated. Okay, let's move on. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. So, attachment, positive or negative, is cause of bondage. Why also negative is cause of bondage? Because we make our identity on negating something. So there is basically no difference. Very often, people who are revolting against the society or some rules, they base their identity on neglecting something. Even atheists, because they are neglecting God, so it's also kind of negative attachment. So it's not like they are without God, they are just negatively attached to God. So this is how this attachment works. So basically it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, still it is attachment, and still it is cause of bondage. Also, I heard of some research that for the mind, if we say something negative and positive, somehow it takes only the positive version. So that's why this attachment is still there. 248. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyog samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogastaha, equipoised, kuru, perform karmani, your duties, sangam, attachment, tyaktva, giving up, dhanam, jaya, O Arjuna, siddhi asiddhyoho, in success and failure, samaha, equipoised, bhutva, becoming, samatvam, equanimity, yoga, yoga uchyate is called. Translation: perform your duty, equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purport: Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna Consciousness. By Krishna Consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna Consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. So, yoga, basically meaning of the word yoga is connection or some link. Same word is the word religion, which comes from Latin. And in Latin it is religare is the verb. And religare means to reconnect. So even in English, this word religion has the same meaning like the word yoga, and means connection to the Supreme Lord. What is also very often misunderstood when somebody is doing so-called yoga practices, what Prabhupada was describing as some bodily gymnastics. So those people don't know the original purpose of these practices, that this connection should be established again. Yogis basically were doing all these asanas and various things just to purify the mind and stabilize the mind, so they can perceive the super soul in the heart, so they can make this yoga, this connection with the Supreme Lord in the form of the super soul. So that's the purpose of yoga. And in our case, it means to concentrate on Krishna, on his service. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Kṛṣṇa, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnāśrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Kṛṣṇa told him. So yes, Kṛṣṇa is sometimes giving us such indirect hints, like he was saying to Arjuna that he is son of Pritha, and because of this he has elevated origin, and that's why he's supposed to do his duties, because he comes from this exalted dynasty. So in this way, Kṛṣṇa is indirectly advising what Arjuna should do, what is the purpose of Varnāśrama Dharma, that is to satisfy Vishnu or Kṛṣṇa, because Kṛṣṇa and Vishnu are not different. Vishnu is just another manifestation of Kṛṣṇa. So that's it for today. We'll continue in this section also the next time. So basically today we read about how Krishna consciousness is encompassing all the Vedic purposes, and how we should reconnect by our activities, how we should establish this yoga, this connection to the Supreme Lord. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad-gīta ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki jai.